I almost got hacked, all because of what seemed like a sponsorship deal from DJI. The more I looked into it, the more suspicious it got. But instead of walking away and ignoring it, I wanted to have some fun with this and decided to perform some investigation. And this is what I found. Let's start from the beginning on Monday, February 17th, 2025 at 6 a.m. I woke up to an email from someone claiming to be DJI. Let's call this person Mary. The email wrote, "Hello of DJI, a global leader in drone and camera technology. We're excited about the possibility of exploring a collaboration with you. Please let me know if you're open to discussing this further." Now, do keep in mind that I just woke up, so I was not thinking straight. All I saw was DJI and thought this is the perfect opportunity to get my hands on some pretty cool tech, especially since I am in the middle of planning a 3-month Asia trip. And by the way, if you wanted to follow along, I'll be posting my vlogs onto my second channel, which you can find in the description down below. After getting dressed and ready to start the day, I then took another look at the email that was sent by Mary. This time, my gut started telling me something was off. The email had several signs of what looked to be a phishing attempt, which is a type of scam where attackers pretend to be a legitimate company to trick people into revealing sensitive information or even installing malware. Looking at the email, there was 1, no personal greeting whatsoever. It didn't even mention my name. Number 2, it had poor formatting and structure. Now, legitimate business emails, they tend to be pretty organized. And lastly, number 3, it had weird wording. The message was quite generic and it lacked any real details about the collaboration. And then I looked at the sender's domain address, which ended in djipartner.live. Interesting. I asked myself, is this a legitimate DJI domain? I sat at my desk and started doing some quick analysis by first Googling DJI partners and saw the domain of DJI.com, which is the legitimate domain. So now I thought, what is this DJIPartner.live that I'm seeing? I moved on to performing a Whois lookup. Now, for those that don't know, a Whois lookup is a tool that we use to check details about a website's domain, like when it was registered, who owns it, and where it is hosted. The reason we do this is quite simple. Legitimate companies like DJI will have long-standing domains registered years ago. For example, if we perform a Whois lookup for DJI.com, we can see that this was registered back in January 16th, 1996. And if we check DJIPartner.live, this was created back in January 19th, 2025. And if you recall, I received an email from them on February 17th, 2025, meaning the domain was created exactly 29 days ago when I first received the email. After learning that this domain was quite new and that the email looked extremely suspicious, I was pretty confident that what I'm dealing with is not a legitimate sponsorship by DJI. And I could have stopped there, but I thought might as well have some fun with it since we're here. I went onto their website using a virtual machine since I did not want to risk my actual computer just in case that there was something malicious that would automatically load upon visiting the website. Now, FYI, this site is no longer up and running as of recording, but I did take some screenshots for reference. I noticed that upon visiting the website, it specifically mentioned YouTube partners, which makes me believe that these scammers are targeting creators. So if you're a YouTube creator and are watching this, please be careful out there. And if you ever have questions or concerns, you can always reach out to me. I am always happy to help. There was one big button that says, "I am a partner." So I decided to click on it. And when I did, I was presented with a text saying our advertisers are entitled to download the list of materials for 2025. At this point, I had the biggest grin on my face because I knew that once I downloaded these materials, there would likely be malicious software in there. Yes, please. When I clicked on the download materials button, I was presented with instructions on how to open it. How nice of them. After downloading the materials, I immediately opened it up, again within a virtual machine, and I was quite sad at first because I was unable to access the files due to these materials being password protected. But then I thought about it. The initial email didn't ask me to do anything, except if I was open to discussing this further. I completely jumped the gun. I had a feeling that if I did reply, I would likely be instructed to go onto the site, download the materials, and then access it using a password provided by these scammers. So then I did just that. By the way, I highly recommend that you do not do this, especially if you aren't aware of the risks. 6 hours go by, and finally my potential business partners replied back with a pretty lengthy email. But when I scrolled down near the end, I was finally instructed to download the materials and access them using a provided password. To be honest, I was quite excited. I began opening the downloaded materials and provided the password. Upon opening the materials, it contained 4 files. 2 were JPEG pictures, 1 was an MP4 video, and the last one was a file named advertising.scr. Now, an SCR file is a Windows screensaver file. But here's the problem. Attackers often disguise malware as SCR files because they are executables, meaning they can run code on your system. And to make things worse, it was actually 88 megabytes or around there. And that's quite a lot, especially as a screensaver. Now, for reference, a legitimate screensaver is about 860 kilobytes. Now, compare this to our advertising file, which is about 88,000 kilobytes. That's a pretty big difference, right? Because of this finding, this particular advertising file was likely the malware. So I went and extracted that file and generated a file hash, so then I can begin performing additional analysis using a tool called VirusTotal. For those that don't know, VirusTotal is an online tool that can scan files against dozens of antivirus engines. And you can also search the analysis of a file that was scanned previously by using its file hash. And that is exactly what I did. I took the generated file hash from our advertising file and searched it on VirusTotal. I then saw 8 antivirus engines that had marked this file as malicious and also labeled it as a loader, meaning it's designed to download and run even more malicious code. Looking at the Relations tab, I saw that this particular file reaches out to an IP address of 185.147.125.81 on port 5000. And that's not all. It also drops 2 DLL files, aka dynamic link libraries, onto the machine, both connecting to the same IP address. DLLs are files in Windows that contains code and instructions that multiple programs can use at the same time. And malware may drop a DLL to inject into a program, which could lead into data theft, remote access, or other security risk. When I took a look at the Behavior tab, I noticed another IP address that this particular file was reaching out to, which was 45.150.32.106. I searched this IP address on VirusTotal, and it showed that 9 vendors had flagged this as malicious. And there was also a community comment mentioning that this IP is likely a command and control server related to Radamanthus Stealer. A command and control server is a system used by attackers to remotely control infected devices. And this particular Stealer is a malware that steals passwords, browser cookies, banking details, and even crypto wallets. Now, let's say if I double click this file and ran it on my machine, it could have hijacked my accounts, drained my funds, and maybe even taken over my YouTube channel. Experiencing that and going through the analysis was pretty fun. But what is the lesson here? Well, if an offer looks too good to be true, it probably is, and it might come with a side of malware. When receiving an email, always ask yourself, does this seem too good to be true? Is there some kind of urgency? And does it lack personalization? If so, you might be dealing with a potential phishing attempt. Next, you always want to be cautious of newly registered domains, generic messaging, and even password-protected downloads/files. Consider searching the file hash on VirusTotal to see if any antivirus engines flag the file as malicious. And finally, always pause, analyze, and verify before engaging. This is the kind of stuff that I love doing, and if you want to learn how to analyze threats like this, please feel free to check out my channel as there are some pretty cool stuff there. That is it for the video, and I hope that you found this informative and entertaining. If you did, let me know by hitting that like button and subscribe if you want to. Remember to stay curious and do things differently.